suddenly everybody lost all desires, humanity won't progress. We would still live very, very miserable lives. In a way, gratitude is bringing you closer to truth and reality as well. The real change will come in your life, happiness will come if you can get to a stage where you don't get angry in the first place. So these are the three principles of humanism, and these are the grounding principles. The first is eliminating real suffering is the highest priority. What does that mean? It basically means some following things, which is, first of all, the path to a better and better world, the utopia, which you can think about, is maximum well-being for maximum number of people. There is no other goal for humanity which is higher than this. Okay. Second is, you must not cause any significant or consistent suffering in the name of something fictitious or material. Nothing is important enough to justify suffering. And what is fictitious? Fictitious could be anything. It could be the name of religion, country, culture, some group that you have formed, some tribe. And material could be, of course, your car, your anything like a loss of property or something. Like nothing is important enough that you can say, I'm doing it for this and I can cause significant suffering. So, and finally, you must develop high sensitivity to others' pain and suffering. The moment you see it, it must concern you. So the point again was, eliminating human suffering is the highest priority. So for that, you must at least be sensitive towards that. Whenever you see it, it must move you inside and it must make you want to do something. Second principle is, we're all equal and similar. And this gives birth to morality. Let me explain. We are all equal in status. Nobody's above you. Nobody's below you. Always remember that. We are just different in degrees, but very similar in basics. So deep down, we are all very, very similar. But in degrees, we are different. So we all have similar emotions, but how we express them is different. So in the deep roots, we are very similar. And morality comes from understanding that we cannot give ourselves any special treatment, and not even special treatment to our kids. And we need to take others into consideration. And once you do that, you automatically become moral, right? And we live in a reciprocative world. What you do with others has consequences. So it becomes in your own best interest to be moral and ethical, because if you're not, then others will be unethical and immoral with you. So that's why, due to that, we naturally are forced to become more moral and ethical. And thus the golden rules, I think I forgot to correct the mistake actually after that, but I'll still say it the right way. Treat others the way you would like them to treat you. That's the first one. Then treat others the way that they would like to be treated. Here you are taking into their desires into account. And treat others the way you would treat your kin, which is your children and others, because that's where you sometimes are the most sensitive to what you should do. You think of your best behaviors when you're thinking about your own children. Okay, so treat others that same way. And the final principle is, knowledge and cooperation are humanity's superpowers. Have faith in them for hope. So many times when we feel low, we need something to believe in, to have faith in, and have optimism. And those are the two reasons. So humanity's tremendous progress has happened primarily due to our collective knowledge and cooperation. And future progress will also come from those. So today, wherever we are, it's majorly because of those two things. And so that is the superpower. So whenever you're feeling hopeless about the world, remember that primarily knowledge and cooperation will save us, nothing else. And the life principles that we are discussing here, they are also part of the knowledge. Like a subset of knowledge would be called wisdom, right? So we are discussing wisdom. That's also part of knowledge. And even for your personal life, you can solve pretty much any problem if you have the right knowledge. So that is the key. Hence, individuals and society as a whole must spend time and energy in gaining and applying knowledge to solve problems of this world, and ultimately move us forward towards maximum well-being for maximum number of people, which was the first principle, right? So if you want to apply your energy, if you want to be a good parent, what do you focus on? You focus on giving your children the right knowledge, the right wisdom, because that's what ultimately leads to better individuals and better society. So yeah, with that, the three principles are finished. And now we can come to today's topic. So today's topic is actually something that you may have heard so many times in literature, in videos, in fact, your religion, and because this exists in almost every religion. But yet, despite thousands of years of repetition in the culture, and it just doesn't seem to be completely applied to our life. And this is actually one of the fundamentals, and that's why I thought it has to be discussed today. So the topic is gratitude. Okay. Now, I want to dig deeper into the reasons behind why you should be grateful, why it's actually not just you fooling yourself about, okay, I need to be positive in life and just this positivity culture. No, it's not that. There is something deeper going on. And once you understand those reasons really well, gratitude will become your natural choice. It wouldn't have to be pushed into you. You wouldn't have to force yourself. Yes, you would still have to work towards it in the sense of like you have to remind yourself, but it will become your natural philosophy of life. So, and I say that with personal confirmation because I also was a few years back not so grateful, looked at life in a very negative and skeptical manner, even other people. But over the years I learned the reasons behind it. I would be doing these online meetings with you all regularly for some time. If you wish to attend these meetings live on Zoom, save the details. If you need reminders, we also send invitations to you personally on email and Telegram app. To get reminders, do the following. And now my core philosophy, my first nature has become gratitude and being grateful and thankful. So it just comes naturally, but it took a lot of work. Okay. So I'm going to be discussing some of those things that worked for me. And of course, they have worked for millions of other people who have tried them. So I'm going to present some of those things. Okay. So first logic that you must understand behind gratitude is this basic science about your own mind, which is called negativity bias. You must have heard of it, but I don't think many people fully understand what that is. So by default, our brain is actually wired to pay more attention to the threats, to dangers, what's negative. And of course, there are evolutionary reasons for that, which is if I put you in a jungle tomorrow, your focus must first be how do I not get eaten alive, rather than how do I have fun here, how do I get good fruits here. Your first focus is let me find a safe space where I can live, or maybe if I have children, they can live. So that's why for your existence, warding off danger is way more important than finding privileges or benefits or fun or enjoyment or good things. That's why we are wired to take negative a little more seriously. Now, this is how we were evolutionarily wired. But in today's society, in 21st century, the same mind actually leads us into a lot of misery because that kind of vigilance, that kind of paying attention to dangers or threats is actually not necessary anymore. Because today, when we are living in the house, we don't worry that a lion can barge in and suddenly eat all of us and break our TV, because that just doesn't happen, right? The same way, if you get sick tomorrow, we pretty much know that we have enough medical science, enough knowledge of medicine and health that we can pretty much survive. So the idea is the core dangers which could kill us, which could harm us permanently, they simply don't exist. Through our knowledge and through our cooperation, we have solved those problems. And we live in amazing, safe societies, amazing, safe societies. So the mind, which was built to keep us safe thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, the same mind leads us into unnecessary misery, unnecessary negativity today. Right? So we have to see this disconnect that we are wired for some other environments, and today the environments have changed. So what do we need to do? We need to adjust our own psychology. We need to adjust how we think, what we pay attention to. Because if we don't do that, all that attention is going to things which is ultimately going to lead to a bad experience here, but nothing good in your life. No real good outcomes. Okay. So this is why you have to correct that negativity bias. So in fact, to prove that we do have negativity bias, there have been experiments that have been done in psychology. Like one small experiment that was done was a study that was done was people for the same amount. So for example, if you pay somebody 100 rupees versus you take away 100 rupees, the happiness that you get from earning 100 rupees is actually smaller than the sorrow or the pain that you get by losing 100 rupees. So basically you go way deeper, and you can think about this with your personal experiences, right? You cook an amazing meal for somebody, and people are loving it, loving it, loving it. But one person says, oh, maybe the salt was too much. And then you remember that part, right? So is the fact that you got 10 compliments and then one negative feedback, what occupied you more? It tells you something about your own brain, that you're still paying attention to negative way more than the positive, right? So, and the trouble is that for our mind, negative is still negative. It still feels like an attack. It feels like in a danger. So now the line is not coming, but a negative comment, a critical remark, somebody mocking you, somebody being sarcastic, that feels like somebody's coming to eat you alive, and you're just responding like, okay, I have to defend myself, as if I won't be alive if I didn't deal with it. So, and that's a wrong response to the situation. And this is why you must understand that your mind is leading you into maladaptive ways of dealing with the world. Okay. So once you recognize this fact about your own psychology, the negativity bias, the next question becomes, what do you do? The natural answer becomes, you then have to consciously pay attention to what is good in your life, like what's happening well, all the good things, all the positive things, and also being able to take away some of the danger level connotation from all the negative things. Because let's say, even if somebody did make a remark, even if somebody did say something wrong, or you even maybe lost a few things, you should be able to fall back and think, you know what, it's not that big of a deal. I already do have a lot. My life is still good, right? So being able to take the negative less seriously and being able to take the positive more seriously, paying more attention. So this shift from negative to positive, this is the journey of gratitude, right? And this looking at the good side is not just in your life, it's into people as well, because people make the similar mistakes in relationships as well, right? Like when you look at relationships, it's very easy to just see all the things they didn't do, all the things they did wrong, all the disappointments, right? As opposed to all the things that they did do. So if you look at all the relationships right now, if I ask you to think of the 10 closest people in your life, what is the feeling do you get? If the constant feeling that you're getting is, you know what, that person didn't live up to this, they did that wrong, they hurt me like this and that. If those are the things that come to your mind, it means that your mind is falling prey to that negativity bias. It's not looking at what they have done, right? It's not looking at the positive, because the fact that you have people in your life, it's actually a reason to be positive too. But your mind is making the same mistake in relationships as well. So if you really boil it down, I tell myself, and the philosophy is, if first of all you're alive, you're breathing, you have reasons to be grateful, right? And if people are not running after you to kill you, you have reasons to be grateful, right? You're alive and people want to associate with you, they are around you and you're still safe around them. These are reasons to be grateful. And that I'm keeping the bar so low that wherever you are, you can find reasons to be grateful. So, and this is also why I say that gratitude is an elixir. Like it applies everywhere. Like wherever you are, it's one size fits all. Like I guarantee you, wherever you are in life, however troubled you are, if you can just find a way to look at what is good, to look at what you already have, and sometimes also look at things that others might not have, which you'll always find, you can instantly change your experience. So even if you're running into the worst problem in the world, which you have no solution for, but if you can simply find a way to look at all the blessings that you already have, your happiness will instantly increase. And nobody can stop you from it, because it's happening here. Like no force can stop you from that. And this is one of the superpowers of our brain, that ultimately the final control of how we are going to feel lies in here. And gratitude is one of those tools. Okay. So this is why I have probably 50, 100 good principles that can be applied in so many different situations. But this one principle, I say, is probably trumps everything, because it's always applicable in every situation. Whenever you're low, you're feeling bad, in the worst fight that you have with anybody, if you can just take 1 minute to think about what's good here, it may not make you the happiest person, but it'll reduce your suffering significantly. And that means a lot, right? That's also something very important. So this is the basic logic behind gratitude. Now, some of the things I want to say here is, see, people have this notion that if I become too grateful, will I also become complacent, right? Like everything is good. So some people who are really ambitious and who want to grow a lot, for them, they're like, if I become too grateful, how will I work hard? Like if I'm just happy all the time with my current circumstances, how will I work hard to improve them? And that's actually, those things are actually not connected and they're thinking the wrong way. I'll tell you how. So first of all, to grow, to improve in life, you don't have to be miserable, okay? You can be happy and you can grow. So you don't have to constantly beat yourself up that, oh, I've done nothing, my life is terrible, people around me are terrible, and then you improve. No, you can completely improve even if your life is completely amazing. Okay, so you can think is like, so you can divide the whole population between two people, right? People who say life is terrible and I want to make it better, and then people who say life is amazing and I want to still make it better, right? So which category do you want to belong to? That's the question. So I, of course, chose the latter one. Okay, life is amazing and I still want to make it better. And why better if it's already amazing? Because I have to do something. I'm alive. I'm eating food. I have 24 hours in each day. I'm probably going to be here for a few years on this earth. I have to do something. So why not make it better, right? So that is the logic. You don't have to feel bad to be able to improve. And once you understand that, then your life, your present completely changes, because otherwise what you're doing is you're only postponing the happiness, which is only if that happens, then I'll allow myself to be happy. Only if I get the promotion, only if I fix this in my relationship, only if I get that car, or only if I reach a certain level in my company. So you are constantly postponing, thinking that once I go there and then I can be happy with my life. And that day never comes because the mind is still the same. It still looks ahead. And that's why, even for ambitious people, by the way, by nature, I am also very ambitious. I also want to keep growing. I also want to self-actualize, utilize my potential, and hopefully reach the whole world with my work. Why not? Why not have the dreams? But I go to sleep reminding myself, and I have to do this, by the way, I'm not even joking. I literally, at the end of the day, I spent 5 to 10 minutes thinking to myself, whatever I've done so far, it's good. I've helped people. My work is good. I'm on the right track. I can live a good life. I have good people in my life. My health is good. These are some amazing privileges. So yes, tomorrow I'll wake up and do something to grow, but tonight I must sleep happy. And trust me, even to this day, I have to do this. The mind can go into overdrive, into work and trying to fix things, that it forgets that part. So I have to remind myself every day. Okay. And this is how I counter what? I counter the negativity bias, or sometimes simply being overrun by desires. So the one logic was negativity bias. The other logic is desires, which is we are born with certain desires and they are constant. They are never ending. In fact, Buddhism has captured this very, very well, which is desires are suffering, right? And they are very right about this, because the moment your desires go into overdrive, disappointment, dissatisfaction is just the other side of it. So that's why you should be able, while you are, so I'm not saying, so one thing that I disagree with them is that you should eliminate all desires. And I disagree with that, because then you can actually run into states which are also miserable. So imagine if we had absolutely no desires ever, if the humanity, suddenly everybody lost all desires, the humanity won't progress. We would still live very, very miserable lives. So the fact that in the last 10,000 years or 20,000 years or so, we have progressed so much, it has happened because we've had desires, right? Desires to improve, desires to work on things. And today, you and I, we are all able to live these comfortable lives because humans before us have had desires, and they solved a lot of problems while chasing those desires, right? So I find a lot of value in those desires. But again, the concept is balance. If they go into overdrive, if you become slave to your desires, you're going to be miserable. And then again, the concept of gratitude helps you, which is, yes, I will keep doing things to fulfill my desires, but whatever I've already fulfilled is also valuable. It's also amazing. It's also great. And I must be able to look at that too. Okay. So this is how you kind of tame your desires going into overdrive, okay? Just going into extremes. So gratitude helps you in countering what? First, negativity bias. Second, taming your desires. And so now these are such fundamentals to your psychology that if you don't get this right, you can be at your deathbed and still very, very dissatisfied. And there are people like that who are well into their 70s and 80s, and they're still aiming for more and more and more. And they're simply not happy because because they never took the time to really appreciate what they do have. And they've ignored their present, they've ignored people around them, and they just wanted more and more and more. So this is why I, I want you to understand that you are no different than those people. If you don't fix those things right now, if you don't rebalance, then you will end up into the same position. Okay. So it's better that you start that work with yourself or sooner rather than later. And I do want to share a small thing which I personally saw in my life, which has also inspired me. So I have seen two very, very contrasting philosophies in my life, one from my dad's side and one from my mom's side. So my dad's side, in fact, almost everybody from my dad's side, they're not very good socially. I don't know what is this. Maybe they don't have enough skills, or maybe they simply don't have the desire to perform socially well. And my training happened in my, of course, dad's side. So I had to do a lot of unlearning, by the way. So basically, those people, they are naturally just involved mostly with themselves, and they really don't care about maintaining relationships. And even in relationships, their expectations are sometimes too high, and they're going to be focused on what did not happen, what the other people did wrong. And if you, like, when you meet them, you'll hear taunts, you'll hear sarcasm, as opposed to, okay, you know what, I'm happy to meet you. So I saw that side. And then there is my mother's side, the nanny side. There they are very opposites. Like, you basically cannot do anything wrong there. Whenever you meet them, they're constantly happy to see you. Whatever happens, happens. And if not, it's fine, it's great. Like, a small example would be, if I go to pick up my grandparents, their first comment would be, if I go to at the airport, their first comment would be, why are you 5 minutes late? 5 minutes late kyun ho gaye? And if I go pick up my nani or my grandparents on my mom's side, they're like, तूने इतनी तकलीफ क्यों उठाई? तो यहाँ तक क्यों आया? And that blows my mind. Like those are my grandparents. They have the right on us in that sense, and they're still being grateful to me that I came to pick them up. The contrast in the philosophies is amazing. And then I had to pick a choice. Like, who do I want to end up like, and what philosophy do I want to choose in life? So clearly, the second philosophy seems better, and the results are in, which is my nani and my nana. They have done socially so well. Sometimes people think they have done too well, which is now they have so many connections that it's just hard to manage it. People just love them. Wherever they go, they're loved. And they are so social, they'll go to every possible opportunity. Now, sadly, my nani's health is not so good, so she's unable to go, but still, they've been the most social people I've ever known, right? And on the other side, my dada dadi, they just could not maintain any relationships. Ultimately, people just did not like visiting them, and ultimately they became very, very loners. And now, of course, we as family, we of course talk to them, we care for them, but in general society, they have no friendships, they have no social connections. And why did that happen? Of course, years and years of picking and living by the wrong philosophies, okay? So this is why you have to see which path are you leading towards. So in that sense, when we talk about gratitude, these are some of the benefits. If you become a grateful person, you do much better socially. You get liked by people a lot more than you do otherwise. Because think about this, who do you want to deal with? People who are constantly complaining, giving taunts, who are constantly disappointed in you, or people who are just happy even with the smallest thing you did for them, right? Of course, you want to be people who are more positive, because people who are negative, people who are taunting, it's like you have to play this game with them to constantly earn their approval, right? They're never happy. And you may do that for a while, but ultimately it's not a very rewarding experience. And people who are grateful, you can just relax around them. You can be yourself, and they're going to be happy with you, because they're just constantly grateful to enjoy what they do have with you. right? So if you become a grateful person, people would enjoy their time with you. You will be more liked, right? You will be probably invited to more parties because if you're constantly grateful. And ultimately, if you think about this, this exists in every part of life, right? When somebody else is grateful, it's like you want to do things for them because you know that it's going to be appreciated, right? There's not a fear there. You know that they're actually going to compliment it. They're going to take time to actually share their experience. Okay, this was good. You want to do it, right? So this is why not only surround yourself with people who are grateful, you become that person too. And that's like one of the keys to happiness. And uh, people who are parents and who have children, please remember that this is a culture, and I've actually made a video on this too. This is a culture that must be built in your house too. And in fact, people have done experiments in schools also, large scale experiments where they've asked children to do this activity, which is write down 3 things that went well for you today, right? They made people and they did clinical trials on this. And what they found out was children who did this gratitude activity, things that went well on a regular basis, their grades improved, their well-being improved, and there were so many positive outcomes. So if you want to start, you can actually do that in your own house by asking your children, and in fact, joining them in this. Let's all at the night either talk about it or write down what went well today, right? It's a simple activity. It just it forces you to focus on what went well in the day, and it becomes part of your behavior. And once you do this regularly, then it becomes part of your nature also, right? So this is something that must be done for yourself and for children too. And ultimately, the culture in the house becomes we have to constantly look at the positive, what we do have, what went well. And of course, negative things will happen. We will have to worry about them. But once you have this gratitude mindset, it's like a huge buffer. It will build resilience in you. It will basically uh, push your satisfaction of life, contentment of life up, because overall, your overall perspective becomes really, really positive. Okay, you know what? It's fine. Like even though I have troubles, but overall, it's all good. And that's the mental state that you should be in, which is overall it's good. There are some troubles. Let's solve this, as opposed to, oh, my life is falling apart. Everything goes wrong. What's happened to me? Why do I have the worst luck in the life? Why is my life the worst life in the whole world? Because 3 things go wrong in your day and you can start talking like that. So this is why once you have that larger perspective, then you don't become you don't break down like that, because your mind is constantly also taking into account the positive. So in that sense, you are taking more and more reality into account. Like when you look at your life, you're looking at, okay, you know what, I'm taking the full picture, right? All aspects into account. I'm focusing on a bigger reality. So in a way, gratitude is bringing you closer to truth and reality as well. So you're not fooling yourself. In fact, now you're actually closer to reality than you were before. Okay, now you're more balanced, and you can actually assess your life better. Okay, so these were some of the points why you should do it and the benefits too. So now what I want is a small discussion on this, which is where do you think you can also improve on it? And if you think, and some of you might have tried it also, right? But you may have failed. Okay, you know what? I've heard this, because many of you must have heard the idea before. And today, still, there is a long way to go before you can actually say that I'm actually a truly grateful person. So what's that gap? Why have you not been able to apply this? If you have any questions, please shoot. And today I wanted more of a discussion. That's why I'm stopping early on this. Okay. Yeah, and as always, please raise your hands and I'll unmute you, and then you can ask the question. And today, the rule is very, very strict. If you do not turn on your video, the question, I will not answer the question. Okay, so that is the strict rule. So I'm going to unmute Dr. Kavita Shablani.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Am I
afternoon.
audible? Yeah.
Yeah, you're audible. One reminder for everybody, as always, whatever you share, it will be ultimately uploaded on YouTube. So ask questions accordingly. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Kavita.
Yeah. So I had heard this long back, 2-3 years back. I never used to be that grateful except for few occasions. but I had heard, because I was working on my personal growth, so I had heard a lot of motivational speakers and life coaches speaking about it, reading books of authors like Robin Sharma, who always mentions about journaling and gratitude. That has really helped me because I have read a lot of Robin Sharma books. So I started journaling, and I also learned from the Yoga Institute Santa Cruz, then Gaur Gopal Das, that they always used to say gratitude is very important. I had heard one video of yours also, which you had taken for your, I think, your college, some function where
Yeah,
you,
I was talking. Yeah, there's an event. Yeah,
yeah.
I did it in
So
2017. Yeah.
so that encouraged me to do that, and I really tell you, past 2 3 years I've been doing that every day. I write, even if it is like I have eyes to see, I have no breathing problem, especially in this COVID period, that I can breathe properly. I have eyes to see. I mean, there's no single day where I don't have any point to write. So that has helped me to overcome some crisis. Like if my dad and mom were down with COVID, I was just thinking, okay, what should be I grateful for? They have COVID, but at least I should be grateful that they are not hospitalized. You know, your thinking changes that way.
Yeah.
And even when my mom had an angioplasty, I was thinking, okay, at least it was not an emergency. We could reach the hospital in time. So thinking of the positive in that negative situation. So what Robin Sharma says, what's the opportunity here to learn? That really helps. So I
Yeah.
just second all the things what you mentioned. It was just getting integrated again, motivating me to more do it and practice in life. Thank you for that.
If you find these videos helpful, you can support me by donating something, anything. Go to www.shridharlifeschool.com/donate. Those who have been contributing, I'm truly grateful for your support. Please continue to do so. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, and this is the purpose. The same principles are driven deeper and deeper and for better application. So thanks for sharing that. And here you mentioned something, and I want to point this out. Like this is like a practical exercise, and there are experiments for this too. So the term that they've coined is downward social comparison. So in general, what we do is upward social comparison, which is you're of course looking at people ahead of you, and then you feel miserable. Okay, so now he seems fitter, she seems richer, like all kinds of because you want to move ahead in life. And for gratitude, you do conscious downward social comparison, and wherever you are in life, you can have probably in every area of your life, you can have somebody, you can think of somebody who is actually far behind than wherever you are, right? No matter where you are. So the idea is if you just simply turn the focus there too, and again, what are you doing? You're taking the full reality into account. So if you're going to look upwards at people to get inspiration, you have to look downwards also, people who are behind you, to actually feel good about where you are. And one thing that constantly shocks people is that most people have absolutely no idea where they actually exist in social hierarchy, especially in terms of their wealth. Some people like they have no, like most people here, like without even knowing everybody, I'm just guessing here, most people here, you would probably exist in top 5 or 10%, and maybe even top 1% of in terms of wealth, social wealth, when you take the whole world into account. Just that fact that you exist in top 10% or 5% and 1%, that should blow your mind, like because it's like 90% of the people are worse off economically, and that itself. And why am I talking about economics first? Because that's like one of the first things that people feel bad about. You know what are my living conditions, what are the clothes that I'm wearing, and how I'm not spending enough, I can't travel in rich in those places, because they're doing the upward comparison, but they don't realize that billions and billions of people are far worse. So once you just know that, suddenly your experience, your the sense of reality changes, perspective changes. And it's so important to keep this in mind. Again, taking the full picture into account as opposed to just the upward part, the tiny part. So do this downward social comparison regularly. And again, you're not taking pleasure in somebody else's misery. You're only thinking that, okay, I am fortunate enough to be here, right? I'm fortunate enough that I don't have those deficits or weaknesses or let's say misfortunes, right? So being able to appreciate them is so important. Okay, so yeah. Next, I'll go to Shivanshi Pathak.
Thank you for unmuting and thank you for the opportunity. So my question is, we're talking about gratitude. We're also talking about how to leverage our own life and control our lives. Basically, getting in the steering wheel. So thank you so much for so much information. My question is basically, with all my heart and sincerity, if I have been showing gratitude and putting my trust in some person, but unfortunately, despite my genuineness and sincerity, this person tends to, break my trust over and over again, then what should I do?
That's a very good question. By the way, do you mind sharing an example? You don't have to share any names, but if you could share an example, it could.
Sure. Like I'm working in a school and I meet with teenagers very often, so I speak to them and I try to help them as much as I can in the position of an educator. I explain them certain things. I go out of my way to help them. They make promises that they will not indulge in certain bad habit, what they have promised me, and yet they go out and get in trouble. And these are not little things. These are going to really be harmful in their long run, not something like just smoking, but more dangerous things. And so I don't know how to deal with that. I can't give up. I don't have this option of backing off because that's letting them go. I can't give up on my students. What should I do? It's also very hurtful. Sometimes you feel, what to do.
So you are feeling that I've done so much and they're not taking that into account and just going back to their same behaviors and again maybe negatively affecting their own lives, ruining their own lives with their behaviors, as opposed to actually when you are there putting in so much. So your efforts seem okay. They seem useless, right? So
no, it's actually not about my efforts. Actually, I'm concerned about them genuinely. I feel, how do I reach out to them? Oh, okay. And trust, of course, is being lashed out,
Mm-hmm. Then it's not exactly an issue of gratitude. So, for example, you can. It's an issue of your like finding a way to influence them right in the right direction, because that's what you're hoping towards. So here, I think one trap I want you to avoid is waiting for the final outcome, which is remember this: you as a teacher are just one among many factors in their lives. So it's very common for parents and sometimes even teachers to overestimate the influence you can possibly have on children or anybody in life, right? So once you overestimate that influence, it's going to lead to the dissatisfaction and disappointment okay, why am I not able to do it? Because it's not sometimes about you, because for their lives, first of all, they have multiple teachers, then they have friends, then they have parents, then they have their own genetics, their own personality, then they have the culture and the media, and then they have their role models on YouTube. So their life is being affected by so many different factors that if you think that somehow one person can overpower all those other things, that's just impossible. So just calibrating your own estimate on how much you can influence them is the first thing, because you have to remember that you're just one contributing factor in their life, not the deciding factor. And once you do that, your approach changes, which is I have done my best, and then now my efforts are just like a drop in their bucket, and now it'll have some effect. It will not have 0, it will not have 100, it will have some effect, and that should be the meaning of your work. That should be the value that you bring to the society and in their lives, right? So this is what I would say to that. Okay, does that answer your question?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to go to Pankaj.
Hi, Dheeraj.
Hi, Pankaj.
Sorry, hi, Shridhar.
Hi, Shridhar, yes.
Yeah. Thanks for wonderful topic and great explanation. Actually, I have been doing this gratitude on and off, but never felt the benefit. Means just theoretically I was doing it. But today your explanation was too good, means now I can feel the benefit. So thankfully I will be I will be try to use this. One question is like sometimes people are really gratitude, but when talking to you or them, they try to fake misery.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether it is okay or means, because you don't want to show our real happiness to many people who envy us. So is it okay, or
give an example of that?
Like even people are having a good job, good everything. When you talk to them, बस चल रहा है, ठीक है. Never say in a very lively, okay, it's going everything fine, बस चल रहा है, कट रहा है. So whether we should also respond to like when we are talking to friends, और कैसा है, बस चल रहा है जैसे तैसे. So even if we are very very happy, people don't say.
And so your issue with that is, what do you not like about it?
Is it okay, means whether it is going to impact in any way negatively, or
So-
we should,
So actually, what people do socially, right? The faces that we put on socially, they actually have many factors too. So sometimes you don't want to like sound too cocky, too snobbish, or like not sound too good about yourself. Sometimes people overplay it. Sometimes people downplay. Sometimes you want to be boastful, then they're going to say things that don't even exist. So you're going to people who are going to boast and who are going to downplay, all kinds of people, and there are multiple reasons for that. Like, what are their desires socially? Like, people are constantly also managing their social perception, right? How do I want to be perceived socially? So here, what your question is more related to that, and for that, my usual answer is try to be as honest as you can for yourself. Again, you can't change people, but for yourself, if something is going well, say it's going well. If not, then yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm doubtful, I'm going through this. And depending on how much the other person wants to listen, of course, you can't tell your whole story to everybody who asks you, how are you? You can't just spend 30 minutes telling about the whole thing. But depending on the time and situation, the general principle would be as honest as you can. And if somebody is not, then we don't know why they're doing it. They could have their own reasons. But gratitude is mostly for your internal experience, which is what really matters is that person, the person you're talking to, they will be internally happy or unhappy depending on what they actually think inside. So forget their social phase. That person may actually be really happy inside, and socially they want to probably say something else. So here I'm talking mostly about your internal analysis of your own life, right? So it's completely up to them. For you, for your own happiness, you just focus on, at least internally, focusing on the gratitude part, and externally, be as honest as you can. So these are just simple things. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. Next, I'll go to Pavni.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Shridhar. It's a wonderful topic, and I really exercise it very much. And it gave me a lot of practical solutions to my life. And every day there is something definitely grateful for. Like, I used to volunteer here. When people become really old, there are old age homes. And every Friday, we used to take them for a walk in the wheelchairs. And they would just ask me to stop if they see a flower, from the ground. If the flower is blooming, they would just ask, could you please stop? And they really appreciate the flower. So then I understood that we don't stop a lot and look at the flowers or a bee, or such small beautiful things, and it has created a lot of hope and a lot of well-being. But my question is, like, with being gratitude and being interesting people, and our survival instincts will go down, right? Like you said, the brain is more inclined towards the negativity, but the negativity also opens doors for more survival instinct, like be alert all the time, like if something's going. And with gratitude and being looking more at the grateful part, like is there a chance where we could get mobbed or mugged, or like someone would accuse us of stealing or something, you know what I mean? Like had if we were more vigilant, we would have seen what would have actually happened, right?
But first of all, that's a very good question, actually, because what you are mentioning here is that even though largely our societies are good, but still there are threats outside. It's not like it's completely safe. Still violent crimes happen, rape, murder, or robberies, and like those things do happen. So we can't be completely complacent. Absolutely right. What we're talking about it first, a genuine acknowledgement of, because people sometimes don't even know that our societies, current societies, are actually way more safer than they used to be, like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. All kinds of crimes, all kinds of violence, everything has gone down, right? But what we hear in the news is very different, right? When you look at the news, it feels like, and especially in India, like you live in a still one of the most developed countries, and even there, of course, there are crimes. But imagine a country like India, and especially living in, let's say, UP, Bihar, or Noida, like which are known for, where there are all the news channels. So when you look at the news, suddenly your worldview is like, oh, what's all happening out there, right? But first thing to understand is the probability. The statistically, probabilistically, if you think those things happening to you is actually very low. So the idea is vigilance versus gratitude. That's more of a philosophy of life. So if somebody were to stay vigilant, let's say, they have to probably spend their whole life maybe waiting for that one incident that might happen someday, right? Being miserable day in, day out to probably secure themselves against that. So this is not the most effective way to actually address this problem which you just mentioned. So what you just mentioned was specific problems to be dealt with in current societies. What I was talking about in the high level of vigilance was when there is a constant danger out there, like anything can happen. We don't live there. Like I'm pretty sure we all of us can go next many years without anything unfortunate happening. So whatever could happen, we can specifically solve for those things. So for example, let's say you were to get mugged on the street. Now you can specifically solve for that, which is how can you have the emergency numbers ready? How can you learn how to immediately shout, or maybe even fight back, learn martial arts, or whatever the solutions that are suggested. So your core philosophy of life could still be, I can live a very grateful, happy, thankful life, but I'm prepared for something like that. So what you really need is preparedness for that. Okay. And in general, the real benefit of gratitude is coming actually into the day-to-day life, because the negativity bias would actually be helpful in those situations that you mentioned. But the sad part is it applies to probably the 95 or 90% of the other life as well, where it's absolutely not necessary, where it's not about, like if you're dealing with your husband or your child or your friends or your colleagues, it's not about survival there, right? And it leaks into that too, the alertness, the vigilance, and that's what causes the trouble. So this is why your core philosophy must be able to look at the whole picture. And also, please remember, I always say, look at the full picture. It's not like I'm saying don't look at the danger and just go to the positive. I'm saying look at the whole picture, reduce that and increase that. So the balance would be the key, and solving specific problems would be the path to addressing real dangers that exist today. Okay.
So
Yeah.
how do we, like you said, there was this clinical trial, like real practical thing where gratitude activity was given to children, and but then how, if we only do that and not the whole picture, like how to bring in the whole picture then for the children to also be.
So nobody said only do that. You
Mm,
do that and you do the other things too. But you make sure that you do this. This must be part of the bigger picture. So you must obviously, like today, all kinds of crimes can happen. And in fact, with the advent of internet, new kinds of crimes have come up, which parents don't even understand, right? Recently I was looking at the news, this poor girl, she was abducted by these three men. And of course, she was assaulted because they were just able to talk to her online. Now, these are some new crimes. And of course, you have to alert your children to those things. You have to stay on top of those things. So we do not want people who are just who have such big blind spots that they don't even understand the reality. So the deepest principle would be, you must be in touch with the reality, the good and the bad, right? The whole reality. So, yeah.
okay, thank you very much, Shridhar. Thank you.
All right. Next, I'll go to Vidya.
Actually, I practice gratitude daily. Like as soon as I get up and when I go to sleep, also I used to practice it very much, and I feel very good about it. Also, I am to explain like how gratitude I am is like. Today, my husband got pastries for us to eat. So I was like, say, actually, I feel very thankful to God. At least now we are in a situation to enjoy this, because many are like unwell and not in a situation to be happy, but at least we are not having any diabetes, or we could eat this. So I'm like a person who always feel gratitude, and I always express my thankfulness also to others. Say in case like if to my driver, or to like wherever we go out, like to restaurant, anybody, waiter or everybody, like I thank them immensely. Like my husband is like, you are so you are thanking them so much that it is like it makes me very uncomfortable. You thank them so much. I will be like genuinely thanking. Also, thank you so much. That this to everybody. Say like even to the maid who's coming when they go in, I say thank you. To my driver, I say thank you.
You thank so much that people are going to charge you more now. Okay, oh, we
Yes.
really, we
Yes,
really helped
so
her so
I
much.
Yes, actually, I thank so much. Even during my wedding, also, I was like for falling in the feet of like say like hundreds and hundreds of people, those who came to our reception. My husband was like really annoyed. Why is he like falling in everyone's feet? So I am like kind of that person. So I just wanted to ask: is like the too much of thankfulness to others? Is it bad? Is too much of thankfulness to others?
Good question. And too much of anything is bad, because again, whenever you go into too much, you can lose touch with reality. Because let's say if you are too thankful, then again, you're overestimating other people's efforts. They have not done so much. They have done something and it must be valued, but not so much that they've changed your life completely, right? So again, the deeper principle is, are you in touch with reality? The closer you are to reality, the better, right? So that should be the guiding principle. But by the way, in general, you should not be worried about being too thankful. You should only be worried about the sense that, okay, it should be just sincere, right? Because people, after a point, let's say if you do it too much, then the other people can also think, you know what, if even if I make a bad dish, she's thankful, and even if I have a good dish, she's going to say the same thing. It's like, what is the difference there? So that can also lead to that. So that's why sincerity is the genuineness is there. I'm sure you say it, but again, it starts to loses its value after a point too. So balance is still the key, right?
Yes, I will. I mean, more be like closer to reality. I think I can, because sometimes when my husband says you need not cook, we'll heat up all the leftover things, I'll be feeling, oh, very thanks. I feel I will be saying, oh, thank you so much. You have reduced my work. So that's why I asked this question. So
Distinguish between internal and external. Externally, what you do is a matter of, let's say, social skills, tactics, pragmatism, how much is good, how much must I say. Internally, if you are more and more grateful, there's almost, so internally, there's almost no limit to that. You can actually be grateful because inside you should be happy. You express it or not, that's up to you, right? So
yes, as I am feeling good about it only, I am doing that, because maybe it is a drop in their bucket, but it feels like ocean to me. That gives happiness. So that's why many of the time I do. Okay, thank you.
Then you should go ahead. Then you should not really hold yourself back, because if it's genuinely coming from inside, if it's sincere, then why? Then why stop, right? If somebody thinks, if somebody thinks that this is odd, then it's their problem, right? You are being sincere, so you should not hold yourself back, right?
Yes, thank you for that. No, again.
Yeah. All right. Next, I'll go to Madhu.
So I don't do any gratitude journaling as such, but I have been grateful, and like it is part of my nature also. Not very ambitious, but not very complacent also. My question is about one person in my close circle. Like you told about money, that is a driving factor in this guy's life. So say 10 years back he was earning 1,000 rupees. Now it has become 1 lakh rupees. But still the gratitude, the gratefulness feeling is not there. It's always something like unfulfilled, like I need to earn something else, like you told, comparing himself to others, all those things. Add to it a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of financial insecurity, and the kind of boss or manager they're under. All these things are like mixing up, And so like there is no end to feeling miserable in this situation. It's always like day in and day out, oh my god, will we be happy after 10 years? Is this money enough? That is the thing going on and on in the person's mind. Apart from say gratitude journaling, what else can we do to make this person's life a little better?
First, whenever this video comes out, please share this with them, because ultimately, see, why did I have this whole session here? Because, and even like Pankaj also said earlier, that you know the principle, but you're unable to apply it if your brain does not take the deeper philosophy behind it, the deeper reasons behind it. So the same problem with that person too, the one you're talking about. They may have heard it, they may know, okay, something like this exists. They should be happy, but since their deeper philosophy is guided by the dangers, the guided by desires, so those desires and those dangers and the uncertainties, they have occupied their minds, and for them, they have to learn why it's ultimately maladaptive for them, it's harmful for them in the long run. They're actually playing a very narrow game with life. They have to learn how gratitude can help them, and for that they have to learn the logic behind it, the reasoning behind it, and then their brain will accept the philosophy, and then they'll be able to look at it. So either you can maybe listen to this session 10 times and explain it to them, or they can listen to it, or there are multiple sources out there. The core way is, like, again, the journey that I had with myself. You have to understand the philosophy behind it, why it's important, how it's done, like, and why is it actually taking you closer to reality than away from it, right? So that's why, because ultimately our brain, we are heuristically scientists. Like we do want to understand how this world works, and we all have our own senses. Okay, this is how things should be, this is how things are, this is how things behave. And until that worldview is changed, our feelings about it and our actions don't change much. So to really change your feelings and thoughts and your behaviors, that worldview must be changed, that perspective must be changed. So that's a longer term process. Sadly, it's out of your hands. You can only suggest things to them, talk to them. Ultimately, it's their journey. So their mental states is pretty much out of your hands. Also remember that if you take on that responsibility, you would also feel miserable because, okay, why am I not able to fix this person? You probably won't be able to, right? You can only guide them and say, you know what, maybe listen to this, maybe give these ideas a chance. That's the best you can do, right? All right. Thanks for the question. Next, I'll go to Saguna.
Hi, Shridhar.
Hi, Saguna.
I will start with like expressing gratitude towards you for this session. And I'm not sure whether my question is related to gratitude or not, but okay. So the problem is I followed this gratitude exercise for some time, and I was more like ignoring negative things about people. Like I was considering, okay, they have good intentions, and like I will go with example like my parents. So I was more like, okay, they have good intentions and they have done like uh, uh, very much for me till now. So so I was like, okay, they are asking for something, so let's do it, even if I'm not very comfortable with that. So now they have developed the habit of pushing me to the extreme. Like, for example, in my siblings' case, if my parents are asking for like uh, 10 things to do, and they are even doing 5-6 things, then they are okay with that. But in my case, it happens that even if I deny like one thing, they push to such a extreme that I give up and do it just because I'm like, I want peace of mind in life. Like,
Could you give an example of what you say no to and which they have a problem with? Any example?
Any small exam, like any small thing, like they are asking me, like if you are going from place 1 to place B, so send us the photo of cab number, like that. And So even if I'm denying that, they will be like, no. They will push me so hard. But with my siblings, that doesn't happen. If they are denying, then it is okay for them. So after that, I felt like being somewhat negative is good.
Well, first of all, I mean, I think there are two problems here. One is how they're differently treating you and the sibling. That's you, and the other thing is how they're reacting to your no. Do you mind me asking your age? Because my answer will actually depend on that. Because
26.
26. Okay. See, in this case, again, I want everybody to just remember that when I talk about gratitude, is mostly an internal state of mind. So why is it important to remember? Because sometimes people immediately make the mistake of thinking that if I'm grateful inside, then automatically I'll become a pushover outside. Anybody can say anything to me. I'll always take anything what others do, and I'll never complain and never say no. And I'll just basically deal with or just accept all unfairness in the world. No, those are all external things. How you deal with other people is very, very different. Gratitude is a philosophy first, just mainly for your internal mind and processing. So the difference there is, internally you can continue to feel very, very grateful towards your parents for all the things that they have done, but externally you know that they are also not perfect beings, right? They are not, they can make their own mistakes, they can make their judgment is also flawed, they are also just human beings. So in that sense, now that you are an adult, you are 26 years old, you have the right to say no to them. You have the right to disagree with them. You have the right to, like if something is they say this completely not cool for you, like it basically is in disharmony with your philosophy, you can just say, you know what, I just think differently, right? And also their complaints with you. You can also tell them, I can live up to those expectations, but some things I simply cannot do. But then remember, you also have to deal with the consequences too, because that will then come with them saying things like, okay, you know what, I don't know what your situation is. Many parents make the threats of, then why don't you go live alone? You're living in our house, our rules. There will be consequences. Then there are consequences like they'll be upset with you. They'll give you taunts. But so once you know that you have the freedom to take action, then you also have to remember that they have the freedom to react to it too, right? But that's fine too. Sometimes you should be able to take somebody's displeasure, even your parents' displeasure, and be okay with it, because you cannot please them completely. You cannot please them 100%. And a little, if they are disappointed with you for certain things, that's fine. It's okay. It's not your duty to make them happy, because their happiness depends on their philosophy of life, right? So it's not your duty, and you simply cannot do it. So this is why the larger answer here is, internally always stay grateful, at least see that side too. Like for example, in my case, my dad, I stay constantly grateful to what he has done for me. But if you ask me, list down 10 mistakes that he has made, I can easily do that, right now I can give out 10 things that he has done wrong too. But what is my overall feeling towards him? Overall, he was a good dad, but in some cases that's not even true. Sometimes parents can be terrible too. They can actually cause so much suffering too. So in those cases, like I've heard of parents who have completely abandoned their children the moment they were born. Now if you just abandon your child, how would you be grateful to your parents, right? So so the gratefulness is, again, the bigger principle is reality. So in my case, I see the full reality, the good side, the mistakes, and overall it's a great net positive for me. So I still feel good about my parents. But what I do with my own life, the decisions that I make, the things that I do, that is not determined by them. I still make my own choices. I'm not governed by them. So separate those two things. And yeah, so
that how to do that separation?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The separation is just understanding this part, that those things are unrelated. Internally, you can feel grateful, but externally, you have the right to do your own thing, live your own life, make your own belief, your own reality, and choose your own path. Just understanding that you have the right. And it is not your duty to serve your parents, to fulfill them, to please them. You are an independent being, right? And the same goes for, if you ever have children, and the same goes for your parents. They don't have the duty to please your grandparents. Ultimately, how you live your life is up to you. And once you take that into account, then you don't take their disappointment or their complaints that seriously. Then you take it into the face value. Okay, you know what? Whatever they're saying, do I agree with it or not? If I agree with it, I'll take it into account, maybe be mindful of it. But if I don't, I can ignore it. You have the right to ignore their words, right? Just remembering that will give you power. Okay.
I think I have been very obedient child, so
yeah. So
that is why the problems are happening.
Yeah. So now that's what they expect out of you, right? That you'll continue to be obedient. So again, obedience is good to a point where you're doing things which don't matter to you that much. And of course, for example, if there are little things that they want you to do, you can do it. It's okay to please them, to make them happy. But if there are bigger decisions, you probably should not be. Another thing is, if somebody is becoming entitled to it, then there is a problem, right? If you're obedient and they feel nice about it, it's great. But if at disobedience, they're actually going to start treating you badly, then you're like, oh, no. Ultimately, I'll consider your wish, but whether it's fulfilled or not, I deserve to be treated respectfully, right? You have to talk to me nicely. Don't talk to me that way. So that's how you separate. Again, do obedience also in a balanced manner. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, Saguna. Next, I'll go to Sophia.
Hi, Shridhar.
Hi, Sophia.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too.
Yeah. So my question is like Shaguna said, parents are like taking the decisions and saying that they can, after we deny them or we say no, they really take to further more advanced things. And the things go more further. So we have to, how to balance the things that are going further. They are not ready to listen us after some time. So how to make a balance in that? And for gratitude, like I have an example. I think this is my way to show the gratitude. Like the example is when a maid is doing a household work, like she tells us, okay, I will do this work tomorrow, and it is not done. We tell them it's okay. But my husband is telling that you should get the work done by today. I show it by the way that it's okay, that she has also her work, or anything else might be their reason they have not done it. This is my way to show this gratitude. So he tells me that you take her side for not doing things, and you are totally dependent on her for doing your work. Like, so I sometimes feel like I'm doing the right thing, that I'm showing the gratitude, or the work should be done by today. So I get, so you're getting me, Shridhar?
Yeah. So let me address that. So what you're saying is basically you want to show the gratitude, and we kind of go easy on the maid, but the husband wants things to be done immediately, or the same day. And of course, his approach is different. Again, I'll remind the same thing here. First of all, that you must differentiate an internal thing versus an external thing. So external, your behavior with the people will involve many other factors, which is how much is your maid, is she actually being too responsible, or let's say the priorities of your husband. Let's say if she postpones something, if it affects your husband's life, then he will of course have some say in the matter. You know what, I want this. And sometimes he'll simply have an opinion on you. So how you deal with other people, there are multiple factors there. But in general, your approach is good because it's going to keep you happy. So dealing with husband is a different matter, because if you disagree on something, how do you negotiate? How do you come to a middle ground? How you tell him why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I have the right to do something like that. And that negotiation is a separate conversation. But for you, it's definitely better that internally you feel grateful towards your maid, and that leads you to have a cordial and a warm or a gentle relationship with her, right? So for sure, internally, you should feel that way and have your own approach. And when it's a disagreement with the husband, then obviously it must be dealt on a relationship level. Okay, you know what? I do this because of such and such reasons. These are your reasons. Let's weigh them. If it's genuinely affecting you personally, maybe I'll push the maid to do it today. If not, then let's let it be. And now that's a separate discussion, right? Make sense?
Yeah, it's right.
Okay.
I want to ask about kids also something like kids are not getting what I am saying to them, like stop the video. They are, for example, they are seeing a game video. I am telling them that that is no use of that game video, but they are saying me that they will do it, but they are again watching that video. I am telling them, but they are not getting it what I wanted.
Well, of course, that is actually a whole other conversation, because there you are talking about being able to convince your child of something. There you have to lay down the argument why it's useless, useful. And for them, what they find useful has so many factors. First of all, it's very enjoyable for them. Then they see other children do it. So you probably will never be able to fully convince them. So don't expect that. That's why you do your best in giving your explanation, but then ultimately, if they do it too much, then you can simply use your authority. And because you cannot wait for them to be fully convinced when the matter is important. Only do it when the matter is important. So don't hope that they will necessarily be convinced by every argument that you give them. It just won't happen every time, right? Because they have their own mindset and belief systems and how they process information. They may take a lot of time too, right? So you do your best, and then, like I said, you can have rules and boundaries. Okay. So I think I'll take the last question from Roja. But before that, I'll just share some of the links as always. So first, again, I would like to announce that we have launched a group therapy program for parents. It's called Parent Anger Management. And in fact, now we have announced a second batch too, because first was almost filling up. And so the timings are, one is on Friday and another one is on Wednesdays. That starts 2 weeks later, actually, on 14th July. The second one, the first one starts 25th June in like 5 days. So if you wish to join either of those programs, I'm just sharing the link. Both the products are actually hosted there. This is basically 2 months program where I will be conducting 8 sessions on how to deal with your kids calmly and constructively, right? So you can save that link. Second link is about if anybody wants to donate to us. If you find these sessions that I'm doing on Saturday, if you find them helpful, you can contribute something. Again, it really helps us a lot. Then if somebody is dealing with something very, very serious and wants counseling, here's the link for that. And for this time, for next couple of weeks, actually, I will not be conducting any follow-up meetings because, like I said, I'm working on that community, the balanced community. I'm working with a friend of mine, and we're going to be starting that small contribution-based thing where people can keep coming back. So I'll be announcing that soon. Until then, I will only be doing these Saturday meetings. Those Thursday meetings won't be happening for probably next couple of weeks. Okay. Now I'll just take the last question from Roja. Yeah.
Hi, Shridhar.
Hi, Roja.
Yeah, this is my second session, and I'm feeling very good by listening to these sessions, and I'm very thankful for you for this. And I have a question on the point that you have explained regarding your personal experience, like where you have your dad's side and your mom's side, which you have unlearned. So the similar thing that is happening with me, like I have to unlearn few things, and it is being very difficult for me to do that. So suppose if there is an argument with some other person, so I know that I shouldn't be behave like that, but somehow I do the same scenario, and then I regret it a lot when everything is done. I mean, though the damage is done by that time, but I regret it a lot. So unlearning thing is...
What exactly do you regret? Like what behavior, like did you say something? Did you do something? Like what exactly do you generally regret?
So I say something which might hurt other people, and I might not be aware of that when I say it, but when I sit and think about that thing, then I regret it a lot.
So basically saying something hurtful when you're angry, when you're emotional, like, and that's what you
Right.
regret later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think ironically, that's exactly what probably like one of the things that will be addressed in the course but I don't think you want it for parenting, you want it for yourself with friends, like you mentioned, right? But see, there the idea is we all have basic ideas. We all have boundaries, certain boundaries that we usually don't cross, even when we are angry. I always give the example that even with your friends, when you're angry, you don't hit them with a rod on their head, right? Even though you're angry, because you know that I can't cross that boundary. I can't hospitalize them just because I'm angry at them. I'm irritated. So it means that, and even though inside sometimes you may feel like doing it, but you don't do it because you have those boundaries. The same way with words also, and with your expression, how you express it. You have to develop some sort of self-control. So there are two things in managing anger. Primarily, the two pieces. One is, how do we make sure that anger doesn't even come in the first place, right? Reducing it, so you just taking the roots out of it, so that you genuinely become calmer from inside. That's, of course, the fundamental part. But the second part is, once you do become angry, how do you make sure that you behave constructively and you don't cause too much damage? So your question relates more to the second part, that, okay, whenever that happens, how do I not do it? So for those things, usually some things that can help you is actually anticipating the situation and practicing a little bit, because you know that there will be times when you will be angry again. For sure, right? Because it's in our nature. Life will have recurring circumstances. And I've sometimes done this too. Like sometimes anticipating that next time I'm going to have this tough conversation with somebody, what will I say? And you actually verbalize it. You actually go stand in front of a mirror. What should be the ideal way to talk? So there the question is, no matter what happens, no matter how angry you get, you will stick to this part. And that requires self-control. That requires some actual skills. I will only say these things. I will stick to the issue. I will not make any personal attacks. I will not raise my voice. And that part needs practice, self-control. And next time you're in that situation, you are more well-behaved and you don't cause as much damage. Okay. So this is more like the behavioral practice of it. So this is probably what you would do. So a small suggestion would be, sit down and try to write down, process the last conversation where you said something hurtful that you regret, and write down what you should have done instead, right? Write that down in as much detail as you can, and then do it once, say it out loud, right? Go through it. This will make you stronger for the next time, wiser and more aware for the next time. And if you do it 50 times, this recursive error, and then you learn from it and then do something, in some time you'll naturally be able to behave much well. But there is a deeper exercise, which I said, the first part. The real change will come in your life, happiness will come if you can get to a stage where you don't get angry in the first place, right? That's the real change. That's the more beautiful change. And that will come from a change in how you look at people, how you look at perspectives. And for that, keep listening to these principles, keep listening to ideas that can change your perspective, right? So that will be done with that. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the question. And thank you all again for coming. See, Vidya, I am also thanking profusely for coming and for asking questions, for everything. It's in my nature too. So yeah, it's completely fine. We can stay extra thankful to people. Okay. All right. So see you all again next Saturday. Again, a great successful meeting. So I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. These videos can help you to some degree, but if your problems are really serious or painful, you should come for counseling. We now have a team of psychologists who can help you and your family live a much better life. Here are some feedbacks from our clients. If you wish to take counseling from us, go to our website page www.shridharlifeschool.com/counsel. Click on this link and fill this application form. We will get back to you soon.